I love the MiYoo Mini, but it's not perfect. At least how it comes out of the box. But can we make it perfect? Well, yeah, maybe. Oh hey, how you doing? I'm TechDweeb. Thanks for clicking on the video today. It's no secret that I freaking love the MiYoo Mini. I love it more than my 280V, my Pal Kitty, V90, Diet Root Beer, Spaghetti, my Bebo, my cat, or you. I told you why I love it so much in my review. Check that out, linked in the description below. I did an unboxing and I gave you the tour and some game testing and I showed you what I like and what I don't like. Spoiler alert, I loved it. And I still love it. It's my little retro Gameboy friend that keeps me company on lonely Canadian winter nights. When my mom's at work and I'm stuck at home, I can run a nice warm bubble bath and pour myself a drink of Diet Root Beer in a champagne glass, light a few candles, and play Battletoads in a magical land of strawberry-scented bubbles. This is my favorite form factor of handhelds. For me, portable handheld retro emulation devices need to be able to fit in a pocket. Comfortably. I need to be able to carry it around all day and pull it out when I'm waiting for my mac and cheese water to boil, or when my mom tells me that I need to fold my laundry, or on the rare occasion that I leave the house to, I don't know, go to the bank or something boring like that. I need to be able to reach in that pocket and pull out my Game Boy for some quick burger time action to help me escape from the tedium of everyday life. My favorite part of this thing is the way it looks. Look at that classy, nostalgic, retro aesthetic. That just gets my dweeb juices flowing. You know I love devices that look like the original old school Game Boy, and this one does. With a few updated touches, it just feels so retro yet modern. And the performance was great. There are a few random games that didn't perform perfectly, but the vast majority that I tested were problem-free. And in the weeks that I've spent with this thing since I made that video, I can confirm that I haven't come across a single game that I wanted to play that didn't work well enough to be playable without issue. But while there's a lot of things about this device that I love, I didn't love everything about it. The screen was kinda washed out looking to my eyes. The built-in software was pretty bare bones. The Retroarch implementation wasn't done right, and you couldn't adjust some important settings. And while most of the stuff ran without problem, there were a few hard to emulate games that didn't work great. And that's why I'm really excited to make this video. I really want this device to be perfect. I love the look of it. I love the size of it. I love the idea of it. And I think it can be perfect if we can fix a few of the problems. And that brings me to onion. This is an onion. Oh, wait. Why did I want to make this video again? Something about onions? Oh, right. We're not here for actual onions. Although I do really love me some onions. You ever have onions and olives on toast? That's good stuff, man. My mom won't let me eat that unless I promise to brush my teeth immediately afterwards. But we're not here for onions. We're here for Onion, the operating system, on the MiYoo Mini. Yeah, this new operating system has a bunch of features that I think will make this thing awesome. Can it make it perfect? Well, I don't know, but let's find out together. Right now. This isn't gonna be a how-to guide. If you want a how-to guide, just go watch the video by Retro Game Corps. Russ did an amazing job, as always, of walking you through everything you need to do to get this up and running. And he has a written guide too, so you should follow his guide and do it right. And you should do it right, because if you do it wrong, you could brick your device. I've linked his video and the guide in the description below, so I'm gonna blow through this stuff really quick, just so we can get to that sweet, sweet Onion OS goodness. On your marks, get set, go! Remove the battery, put the SD card in your computer, download the software update from the MiYoo website, link in the description below, unzip the update and copy the .img file from the firmware directory into the root level of your SD card. Then copy everything from the TF card directory onto the root level of the SD card as well, overwriting anything that's there. Eject your SD card from Windows, remove your SD card and shove it in your MiYoo Mini. Use like a 5-volt charger with a USB A to C cord, plug in the MiYoo Mini to power from the wall. Don't touch it. If anything interrupts this process, you can brick your device. Wait for the software update to finish. It's done when you see the battery charging indicator, and unplug the MiYoo Mini. Put the SD card back in the PC, delete the .img firmware file from the root level of the SD card, put it all back together and try out the new MiYoo Mini software if you want to. There's not a lot that's different. Turn off the device. If you're using a new SD card like I am, you're going to need to make sure it's formatted for FAT32, or you could use your old SD card. Make sure you back up your save games if you're using your old SD card. Put the SD card in your computer. Download the latest version of the Onion OS from their GitHub page. There's a link to that in the description below. You're looking for the zip at the bottom of the latest post. Unzip that, open the folder in the zip and copy the TMP_update folder to the root level of your SD card, and when that's done, eject the card. Put the SD card back in your MIDI. Plug in your MIDI and wait for the Onion installer to pop up. The installer will walk you through the process. It'll let you choose which systems you want installed by default, which is pretty cool. You can go through and enable anything you want or press Y to enable everything. Oh, and you can redo this later from the menu, by the way. Once you've selected everything you want, press start to install. Let it do its thing, and then you're done. Oh, one more step is you have to add your ROMs and BIOS files if you're using a new SD card. You can actually copy those from the old card if you want. I'm not going to show you how to do all the little stuff here in this step. You can figure that out. I believe in you. Wow, that was an ordeal. Lots of steps, huh? Nothing too complicated though. Here's the new menu. No more Retroarch section, as you can see. Just favorites, consoles, apps, and settings. The most important thing to do first is change the settings for the screen. I mentioned before that one of my gripes with this device was the washed out screen, but you can totally fix that now. Crazy, right? I find if I turn down the brightness all the way and bump up the saturation and contrast, that the screen feels way better to my eyes. Okay, let's check out Onion. It's basically the same as before, but with a bunch of tweaks and some new stuff. There's a handy manual in the app section. Shows you the shortcut keys, which is super helpful. The apps section has a few options that you can play around with. A built-in file explorer, a tool to rebuild the database if something goes wrong. The Onion installer lets you add or remove game systems from your list. The expert view adds a new menu with a ton of alternate emulators. I'll show you that a bit later. You can access Retroarch settings here. There's a screenshot tool that you can enable. And this is awesome. There's a built-in theme switcher. It comes pre-installed with a ton of themes. Something for everyone in here, I think. I'm gonna choose one of these retro-looking ones. Yeah, this one. Look at that. This is freaking awesome. Now in the console section, you can see that they're arranged by the date that they were released. Apparently you can add art for the games too. I didn't bother with that, but I probably will. Let's fire up a game here. You know what's coming, right? Burger time, oh yeah. One thing I wanted to test right away was the save states. Apparently you can save your game by pressing the menu and R2 bumper, and then you can load your state with menu and L2. So watch this. I can save over here, run to the other side of the screen, and then load the state over here, and boom! Yeah, so built-in save game shortcuts. That's really awesome. Oh, and the brightness too. You can change the brightness by pressing start and select and using the L2 and R2 buttons. The guide that you can access in the app section, it shows you all these shortcuts. Oh, and another thing I love is that when you exit a game, it automatically saves your place. So that when you start up the game, you're immediately right back where you left off. All these default emulators are running through Retroarch now. Retroarch is so feature-rich. You can do so much here. For example, you have a huge list of options for the colorization on the Game Boy. Whatever kind of colorization you like, you can just swap it out. And there's tons of scaling options and filters and all sorts of stuff. You can even customize Retroarch itself. You can choose which options appear in your menu and the color theme. I'm not going to get into detail because I could make a whole video on Retroarch, and I just might actually. Okay, so here's something I came across. Screen tearing. You can see in this intro screen for Contra 3 on the SNES that there's some serious screen tearing. Super ugly, right? Nothing I could adjust in the settings could fix it. And here again in Sunset Raiders on the arcade, can you see the screen tearing? Well, I did some research. I found someone on Reddit who figured it out. There is a memory leak at the kernel level. So when you switch ROMs and systems multiple times, the device starts to get bogged down and you get screen tearing and UI issues and stuff. A reboot fixes it. So I tried that and yeah, it worked right away. Screen tearing was completely gone. So if you get some bad screen tearing after playing lots of different games, just reboot the device and it'll fix itself. Now back to the games. Sunset Raiders is one of my favorite new arcade games. Let's kick this guy's butt with my cowboy guns. Yeah, take that, you big stupid jerk. Now that I've solved the screen tearing thing, let's give Contra 3 another chance. And yeah, that's fixed here too. And the game runs fine. The default scaling on all these systems looks really good. You could change it if you want to. I'll show you that later. And while we're into Super NES, let's try out some Mario World, running flawlessly. It feels perfect. This is one of those games that I played so much that even the slightest little input lag or delay is really noticeable to me. It feels great here, except for my stupid fingers being stupid. Oh god. Ugh. Let's fly through a bunch of game testing. Here's a Fantasy Zone on the Sega Master System. Fantasy Zone is like the afterlife. I don't know if it's like heaven or hell, but I just know that this is probably where I'm going when I die. Will I see you there? I hope so. Devil's Crush on the PC Engine, which is called the TurboGrafx 16, where I live in Canada. That's what we call it, TurboGrafx 16. And this game is freaking awesome. I love me some pinball. I wish I had this game when I was a kid. Pinballs and aliens together, man. A little TechDweeb would have eaten that right up. Oh, this is cool. Yeah, you can run DOS games on this. I downloaded Commander Key 2 and it works. Wow, this is actually gonna bring me a ton of enjoyment. Little TechDweeb basically lived in DOS. There are so many great DOS games. Well, maybe they're not great in retrospect, but I loved them. I played games that we used to love a long time ago. It's one of the best part of these little retro gaming devices. This doesn't run perfect. The keys aren't bound properly, so you can't use your laser. You'll have to configure the keys in Retroarch here, but you can do that, and it works well enough. This was a really nice surprise. Here's Mario 2 on the NES. As you can see, it's running in the native NES aspect ratio now, which is much preferred, and you can change the scaling filter to whatever you want. There's a ton to choose from. I find the default filters are great, but if you prefer some other type of scaling filter, then you have all the options you could ever want. Oh, and sorry about the ugly, weird color artifacts on the video. My camera didn't like that shade of blue of the sky here. It doesn't do it justice. It looked great in person. Mario 2 is my favorite Mario game on the NES. Because it's the best Mario game ever. I will fight you if you disagree. Streets of Rage 2 on the Sega Genesis. A great game, a really great game. Plays great here too, obviously. I love these brawler games. They're fun and easy, and you just turn off your brain and punch some jerks for hours on end. And why are there always things hidden in the trash cans? Look, I punched this can and there's a bag of money. Someone threw out a bag of money. And look, under this one is a cake on a plate. It's on a plate with the garbage, and I eat it. Garbage cake. Like, what the heck, man? Super Mario Land 2, 6 golden coins on the Game Boy. This is the first real portable Mario game. That first Mario Land on the Game Boy, that doesn't count as a Mario game. That wasn't a Mario game. This is a Mario game. And it's a great game. I think lots of people skip this one. If you like Mario games or just good platformers in general, then play this game. It's aged quite well, actually. Come on, baby. Come on. You got this, TechDweeb. Come on, big money. Big money. Oh, God, what am I even doing with my life? I freaking hate video games. I quit. Sorry, Finn. That wasn't fair to you, buddy. Here's some NeoGeo, Samurai Showdown. Good game. Really good game. It runs great. It looks great on this screen. Not much more I could say about it, I guess. Man, I'm jumping all over the place here, aren't I? Ah, whatever. You guys don't really care, do you? Here's Hero on the Atari 2600. I'd never tried this game before, but I made a top 10 collection of ROMs from each system, and this was one of the top 10 games on the 2600 that the internet told me, so I figured I'd try it out. And yeah, it's actually not that bad. Sort of an action puzzle game, trying to save the guy who's lost, and the graphics look pretty good for a 2600 compared to the rest of the 2600 games, that is. Let's move on to some PS1. Tony Hawk's 2 is my favorite PS1 game, and my favorite Tony Hawk's game. It's also a good game to pick up and play for like a minute or two, while being deep and fun enough to play for extended sessions. Every time I fire this up to test in these videos, I always tell myself I should play through the career mode again, but I keep on forgetting. That'll probably happen again this time, to be honest. It's such a great game, and it actually plays really well on these little retro devices. And Tekken 3 for the PlayStation, running with no problems at all. This one is harder to emulate, so it's promising that it runs as well as it does here, to be honest. Bloody Roar 2 is the hardest to run a PS1 game, and it does not run flawlessly here. It's about the same performance as the stock firmware. It's a tiny bit stuttery, but the stutters are very minimal, and honestly, it's pretty easy to ignore. I would play like this. Now, you can turn on frame skip, obviously, and it'll run without stutters, but it's only running at 30 FPS now. And in this case, I'd probably opt for 60 FPS with a tiny bit of stuttering over 30 FPS with no stutters, but in either situation, it's playable. And it's the hardest to run a PS1 game, so you should have no issues running any PS1 stuff. Okay, let's take a quick side tangent to show you the expert view. You can select this from the apps menu, and it adds a new extra section to the main menu. In here you can see a list of all the Retroarch cores and emulators that are on the device. This is only really useful for troubleshooting, I think. The default emulation cores are already configured, so you won't need to mess around 99% of the time. But sometimes you may find that you come across something that requires tinkering. For example, here I fired up Duke Nukem Advance on the GBA. And the default core, it had some weird visual artifacts. You see those gross lines? So I just jumped into the extra section and tried a different GBA core. And sure enough, the GBA core ran much better. The performance isn't perfect. No device I've tried this game on plays it perfectly, even my cell phone. But at least we're not dealing with those visual glitches, and it's great that we have options to deal with these issues. It's not all completely smooth sailing though. Star Fox did not run at full speed. There were stutters. So I tried some other emulation cores from the extras menu. There are like 8 of them to choose from, which is nice. And they all had slightly different levels of performance, but not one of them could run the game at full speed without stutters. So not every game that this thing can run will run without issue, but honestly, it's better than it was before. It's almost a non-issue, because the number of games that will give you problems is such a small amount compared to the games that will work without any problems. I'm really not upset at all. And then the system itself, especially now that it's improved, for this price, it definitely still gets my highest recommendation. Like, wow, just wow. You know, I liked this device before. It was just great. There were some shortcomings, but they were pretty few and far between. But now it is freaking perfect. Almost perfect. Like 99% perfect. I mean, there is no perfect handheld. But for my tastes and my preferences and the price, this is the best little Game Boy style handheld that you can buy. And with Onion OS, it becomes all it can be. Almost. And that brings us to the end. Please let me know in the comments below. Do you like the MiYoo Mini as much as I do? Do you think it's perfect? What would you change about it? I can't really think of much that I would change apart from maybe being able to play some more systems, I guess. And obviously the few glitches. I'd love to hear your suggestions. And let me know what you think of Onion OS. Or if you have any questions or whatever, just leave them in the comments below. And while you're down there, click the thumbs up button if you like the video. Or the thumbs down button if you didn't like it for some reason. Check me out on Patreon, linked below. I have some fun perks you might be interested in. Subscribe if you haven't already. What are you waiting for? As always, I'm TechDweeb. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.